gosh, Luna! Luna, Luna, Luna! The greatest princess in history of course.
Nonviolent tactics, eh? A novel approach and much appreciated. Now, I myself might let my inner fanboy have free reign. But in this case, I think we'll try it for a bigger topic. Let's talk about archetypes.
Archetype, the original pattern or model of which all things of the same type are representations or copies. A prototype, also a perfect example.
Ugh, that there's a lot of words that ultimately come off as being very bland.
Archetype, an idea.
That is literally a word. Someone got paid to use a word as a definition in a dictionary.
Archetype, an inherited idea or mode of thought in the psychology of C.G. Jung that is derived from the experience of the race and is present in the unconscious of the individual.
Oh, now we're getting somewhere. Yes, Sigmund Freud's student Carl Jung saw archetypes as more than just stock fictional characters. To his way of thinking, they were expressions of our own psyche. While Freud wanted to keep the science of psychology purely based on data, Jung read the world's fiction and was like,
"Oh my gosh, you guys, these are all totally similar."
He sounded exactly like that, don't question it. Jung believed that archetypes were a message from humanity to itself, an example of how we could be our best selves or our worst. Though the presentations vary, the archetype is a symbol that can reach across cultural differences. We often use archetypes without consciously knowing why. Hence, this is part of our culture's collective unconsciousness. And yes, one can apply an archetype to each of our favorite ponies. In Luna's case, one might think she's the princess archetype, but not so. Despite her being the younger of two sisters, Luna arguably represents one of the older archetypes. To me, Princess Luna represents the emotionally healthy crone archetype, which I realize doesn't sound very complimentary, but if you'd give me just a few minutes to explain, it's just a title! So, the crone. Not a very complimentary term, is it?
Crone, a withered old woman.
None of which seems to apply to Luna, but at the risk of defying Merriam-Webster, I think that's an incomplete view. In fact, crone has only recently, relatively speaking, suffered bad branding. Once upon a time, the term crone was more reverent to those who had lived long lives and had great wisdom to share. In fact, some cultures and religions featured a crone as one aspect of the divine. Imagine for a moment taking a divine figure and splitting it into three aspects. Yeah, foreign concept, I know. But let's do a shift in perception. Remember Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos? The three fates of Greek mythology? You know, one spins the thread, another measures it out, and Atropos snips it off? A metaphor for birth, life, and death? My point is, our expressions on life and the unknown aren't always defined in masculine terms, and very often we look to archetypes to represent stages in our lives. At the beginning, you're more like the maiden, all the youthful energy and excitement but trying to gain experience. This could be Twilight or Cadence, though I think Twilight matches the youthful excitement more. Plus, she's had way more screen time. There's no question to me that Celestia represents the mother archetype. Though she doesn't have biological children, she is responsible for the care and upbringing of an entire nation. But what comes after? We don't often want to consider that. That's the area where the crone archetype appears. So does Luna fall into this role by default? Well, in some ways it seems a poor fit. After all, her reintroduction in Luna Eclipse showed a young and overly energetic personality. And while she's mellowed out for later appearances, she still has a youthful spirit, eager to get involved. It's interesting to note that, depending on which way she's facing, Luna's cutie mark could be a youthful waxing crescent, or the end of the cycle waning crescent. Even her neck piece changes directions, so it's hard to say. I'm sure I could find some meaning, like this represents both youthful energy and experience, but honestly I think it's just the result of using vectors. So you might be saying, Silver, you ridiculous raptor. If Luna is so youthful that we like to feature her as a game geek or a cutesy chibi pony, how can she represent the older stages of life? And I'm sure you use those exact words. Well, let's take a look at what the crone is meant to represent. In the later stages of life, the crone is no longer able to have children. Some scholars describe the crone archetype as one who tried to become the queen/mother archetype, but fell short. It's here that we look at not just Nightmare Moon, but Luna's time away from Equestria. During Luna's 1,000-year exile, Celestia became the mother figure for Equestria. Ponies look to her for guidance and celebrate her contributions. Luna was a figure lost to myth. As a result, the motherly connection just isn't there. Luna is there for her charges, taking a more prominent role than most, but I don't see ponies regarding her with the same reverence as Celestia. Luna has to integrate that lost time into her worldview, much as we integrate personal loss or disappointment into our own lives as we grow older. That's unavoidable, but how we respond is something we can control. In many ways, Luna is sympathetic because her own mistakes forced her to accept a role that's beyond her years. The crone in her greatest emotional health accepts what's happened and looks for how she can help shape the future. That's why her chief attributes are wisdom and compassion, both of which she's shown to the Cutie Mark Crusaders and Starlight Glimmer. The crone also invokes transformation in others. She certainly helps Scootaloo and Applebloom change from ponies plagued by doubt and worry. The crone is also known for healing laughter and bawdiness. Bawdiness. Well, that's not a word that comes up in everyday conversation. What does it mean?
Bawdiness. Obscene. Lewd. Boisterously or humorously indecent.
Oh my. Does yon princess have a naughty side? Come on, oh princess of the night. Give me your best dirty joke. Okay. 1, you have ruined sour cream for me. 2, I don't really get it. 3, I'm going to go over here and just have a cry. Dirty jokes aside, the crone is ultimately about accepting what has come before and turning it into positive energy. Luna doesn't hide from what has happened in her past. If anything, she uses it as an example to inspire the young or the lost.
I too have a sister who often shines more brightly than me. And with this, I have struggled. I have been helped time and time again by 6 very special ponies. I suggest you share your concerns with them.
And she can do this because out of all the princesses, her counsel carries the most weight. Celestia's authority comes from several lifetimes, but there's a certain distance because we don't know if she's had to go through those trials herself. Luna's bitter experience adds a sincerity to her counsel. We've seen her deal with some heavy stuff, so when she coaches others, we know she's not just speaking from ideals. That's another reason why I think Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep came out too late in the series. Luna had already shown herself integrating her past into her current behavior. Then we find out that while doing that, she was also torturing herself. I think that undermines her presentation, even though the episode itself is about accepting the past and forgiving oneself. That episode also risked making Luna one of the crone archetype's shadows. Oh yes, archetypes have dark counterparts. 2, in fact. Often one shadow is aggressive and the other passive. The passive version is the hag. The hag is worn down by the past and bitter that she has lost her youth. She's angry at the world that betrayed her and may try to live through others. The aggressive shadow is the witch. She doesn't just resent that she's growing older, she hates the young for having what she does not. So she schemes and tries to ruin their lives out of spite or arrogance. Luna could have become either. Heck, we saw a little bit of that in Luna Eclipsed.
They have never liked us, and they never shall.
But thankfully she had the right help to get her to see the best in herself. Despite all that's come before, she rises above self-pity and takes actions to help others. She knows she's made a terrible mistake, but life doesn't stop there. I think that's why she's often portrayed appealing to Equestria's foals. Part of being young is making a lot of mistakes. And while it's great to have role models who inspire us to be our best selves, we often don't appreciate the experienced members who work alongside us. While Celestia shines above, calling others to stand, Luna's by their side, cautioning them to watch out for pitfalls and encouraging them to work through an obstacle. And that's what I mean when I use the term crone, dear princess. It's not a commentary on age or anything superficial. It's a celebration of one who takes a difficult life and transforms it into a source for inspiration. I'm Silver-Quill. Thanks for Oh, I finally got that joke. Oh goodness. It took a little bit, but that's funny. Oh, so bawdy.